Did you know? According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, nearly 1 in 7 young adults between the ages of 18 and 25 struggle with substance use disorder in the United States. It's not just a number. It's millions of lives, stories, and futures at risk. But what does that statistic mean when it's your life? Your story? Your future? I never thought I'd be one of those numbers. I grew up in a world that seemed so full of potential. Friends, dreams, and an open road ahead of me. But addiction has a way of sneaking in, taking root in the moments when you least expect it, and turning your life into something you barely recognize. This is my story. A story of struggle, heartbreak, and darkness that consumed everything in its path. For me, it started when I was just out of high school. I didn't grow up thinking I'd ever touch drugs. I wasn't that kind of person, or so I thought. At first, it was just something to take the edge off. Something to help me feel like I belonged when I was at those late-night parties. Everyone seemed so carefree, so alive. And I wanted to feel that, too. It was just a pill at first. Something to help you relax, a friend told me. I didn't think twice. That night, I felt like I was invincible. The lights seemed brighter. The music felt deeper. For the first time in a long time, the weight of my insecurities felt distant. But what no one tells you is that the weight comes back, heavier than before. And so, I did what felt natural. I tried it again. And again. Until it wasn't just something I did at parties. It became something I needed to face the day. To feel normal. To numb the chaos in my head that I didn't even know existed before. The months that followed were a blur. I started missing class, making excuses to my parents, and slowly pulling away from the people who cared about me. I told myself I was fine, that I could stop anytime I wanted, but deep down I knew that wasn't true. I remember the first time I woke up and realized I didn't even recognize myself. It was a random Tuesday morning. I looked in the mirror and saw hollow eyes staring back at me. My skin was pale. My body felt weak. But it wasn't just the physical changes that terrified me. It was the realization that I couldn't remember the last time I felt genuinely happy, without the drugs. The worst part? No one around me seemed to notice. Or maybe they did, but they didn't know how to help. I became a master at hiding it, smiling when I needed to, giving excuses that sounded believable. But inside I was falling apart. Addiction doesn't just destroy your body. It destroys your relationships, your dreams, and your sense of self. By the time I hit rock bottom, I had lost almost everything that mattered to me. My grades were in shambles. My closest friends had stopped reaching out. My family was constantly worried but didn't know how to reach me. I'll never forget the night everything came crashing down. It was a cold winter evening. I was sitting in my car, parked in a random lot, hands shaking as I tried to open another pill bottle. The loneliness was suffocating. I sat there for what felt like hours, wondering how I had ended up here, wondering if anyone would even care if I disappeared. That night I broke. I cried until there was nothing left inside me. I wanted to scream, to run, to escape the mess I had made of my life. But no matter how much I wanted to blame the drugs, I knew I had let it happen. I had made the choices that led me here. Breaking free from addiction wasn't just hard, it felt impossible at times. There were days when I wanted to give up. Days when the cravings felt stronger than my willpower. Days when the shame and guilt weighed me down like 1,000 bricks. I had to face the pain I had been running from, the insecurities, the fears, the trauma. It felt like ripping open old wounds and pouring salt into them, but I knew I couldn't keep living the way I had been. The hardest part was learning to forgive myself for the mistakes I had made, for the people I had hurt, for the time I had wasted. There were moments when the shame felt unbearable, but I held on to the hope that things could get better. After reading this, you might be wondering how I managed to turn my life around, how I went from sitting in that cold car, feeling hopeless and alone, to where I am now. I wish I could tell you it was easy, but it wasn't. It took time, effort, and the right guidance. If you've ever felt like I did, trapped in a cycle of addiction, wondering if there's any way out, I want you to know that there is hope. You can break free. You can take back control of your life. And when you do, the freedom, joy, and sense of purpose you'll feel is unlike anything you've ever experienced. The solutions that help me overcome this struggle and transform my life are waiting for you. But right now, just know that you're not alone. Millions of people have walked this road and come out stronger on the other side. And so can you. This is the beginning of your journey. Stay with me, and I promise you'll find the answers you're searching for. I wish I could tell you that my lowest point was where the story turned around, but that would be a lie. The weeks that followed were some of the hardest I'd ever lived through. Addiction is not just a physical battle. It's an emotional war. Every day, I felt like I was carrying the weight of my mistakes everywhere I went. Even when I wasn't using, the shame lingered, following me like a shadow. I began to isolate myself even further. My phone was silent most days. Friends had stopped checking in because I had pushed them away so many times before. Family gatherings were unbearable because I could see the disappointment in their eyes, even when they tried to hide it. And still, despite everything, the cravings never let up. Every time I thought about quitting, my brain would play tricks on me. Just one more, I'd tell myself. One more won't hurt. But one more turned into 2, then 3, until I was right back where I started. It was a vicious cycle, and I didn't know how to escape it. Before all this, I had dreams. Big ones. I wanted to travel the world, start my own business, maybe even write a book someday. But when addiction took over, those dreams faded into the background. It wasn't that I didn't care about them anymore. It was that they felt impossible. I can't tell you how many nights I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever get my life back. I missed the version of myself that had hope, ambition, and a sense of purpose. I missed waking up and feeling excited about the future. But the longer I stayed trapped in my addiction, the further those dreams seemed to drift away. One of the hardest parts of my journey was losing the people I cared about most. Addiction has a way of turning you into someone you don't even recognize. Someone your loved ones don't recognize either. I lied to the people I loved. I hurt them in ways I never thought I could. And no matter how much they wanted to help me, I wouldn't let them in. I'll never forget the day my best friend told me they couldn't do it anymore. We were sitting in their car, and I could see the pain in their eyes as they told me they had to walk away. I love you, they said, but I can't keep watching you destroy yourself. Those words cut deeper than anything else. I had pushed away one of the only people who still cared about me, and for what? For a substance that was killing me slowly. The truth is, the hardest part of my journey wasn't losing friends or missing out on opportunities. It was facing myself. I had spent so long running from my pain that I didn't even know who I was anymore. The person I saw in the mirror wasn't someone I liked. I hated who I had become. There were moments when I didn't think I deserved a second chance. Moments when I thought it would be easier to just give up. But deep down there was a small voice, a whisper, that kept telling me to hold on. That voice grew louder over time, and eventually it became impossible to ignore. It wasn't an overnight transformation. It never is. But there was a moment when I realized I had a choice. I could keep going down the path I was on, or I could fight for a better life. That realization didn't come in a grand, dramatic moment. It came in the quiet hours, in the stillness of my own thoughts, when I finally admitted to myself that I wanted more. I wanted to feel alive again. I wanted to wake up in the morning and look forward to the day ahead. I wanted to mend the relationships I had broken and rebuild the life I had thrown away. But more than anything, I wanted to prove to myself that I was stronger than the addiction that had taken over my life. If you've made it this far, I want you to know that you're already on the right path. The fact that you're reading this means you're searching for answers, for hope, for a way out. And that's the first step. Recognizing that you want something better for yourself. The road ahead won't be easy. There will be days when you feel like giving up, when the pain feels unbearable, and the cravings seem too strong to resist. But I promise you it's worth it. Every step you take toward recovery is a step toward freedom. A step toward the life you deserve. In my darkest moments, I never thought I'd find a way out. But here I am, sharing my story with you. If I can do it, so can you. The strength you need is already inside you. All you have to do is take that first step and keep moving forward. You are not alone. And no matter how hopeless things may seem right now, I want you to know that there is a way out. You are capable of more than you realize. And when you come out on the other side, you'll see just how strong you really are. This is just the beginning. Hold on to hope. Stay with me because the next steps are going to change your life. After the moment I hit rock bottom, there was a strange sense of clarity. I didn't know how to fix my life, but I knew I had to try. The first step was the hardest, and it wasn't some grand action. It was admitting to myself, fully and without excuses, that I couldn't do it alone. I needed help. As terrifying as it was, I reached out to someone I trusted, a family member who had always been there, even when I didn't deserve it. I broke down, told them everything, and for the first time in a long time, I felt a sliver of relief. Saying it out loud, exposing the secret I had been hiding, felt like letting go of a weight I had been carrying for years. They didn't judge me. They didn't yell or lecture me. Instead, they hugged me, told me they loved me, and said they would help me figure out what to do next. That moment was the first sign that I wasn't as alone as I thought. The next step was seeking professional help. I remember sitting in the waiting room of a local addiction recovery center, my hands trembling as I filled out the paperwork. I was so scared of being judged, of being labeled as broken. But the people there weren't like that. They were kind, patient, and understanding. They had seen it all before, and they knew how to guide me through the mess I had created in my life. My first meeting with a counselor was overwhelming, but it was also eye-opening. They helped me understand that addiction isn't just about willpower. It's a disease that rewires your brain. That realization was a game changer for me. It wasn't about being weak or strong. It was about finding the right tools and support to heal. The counselor introduced me to something called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. At first, I didn't understand how talking about my thoughts and feelings could help, but over time, I realized how powerful it was. CBT helped me identify the negative patterns in my thinking that had led me to use drugs in the first place. It helped me see the triggers I hadn't even noticed before. And most importantly, it gave me strategies to replace those destructive thoughts with healthier ones. One of the first things I learned in recovery was the importance of structure. My life had become chaotic with no sense of order or purpose. So I started small. I set my alarm for the same time every morning, even on weekends. I made a list of simple tasks to complete each day, like making my bed or going for a short walk. First, it felt silly. How could something as simple as making my bed make a difference? But over time, I realized that these small actions were teaching me discipline and giving me a sense of control over my life. They were building a foundation for bigger changes. Another crucial part of my routine was exercise. I started going to the gym, not because I wanted to look a certain way, but because it made me feel good. The endorphins from working out helped ease the cravings, and the physical activity gave me a healthy outlet for my stress. On days when I couldn't make it to the gym, I'd do simple bodyweight exercises at home or go for a jog around my neighborhood. One of the hardest parts of recovery was facing the people I had hurt. I had to make amends with friends and family members who had watched me spiral out of control. Some of them were willing to forgive me, while others needed time. And that was okay. I had to accept that I couldn't force anyone to trust me again. I could only show them through my actions that I was serious about changing. One relationship that meant the world to me was with my best friend, the one who had walked away when my addiction became too much. I wrote them a long letter, apologizing for the pain I had caused and thanking them for trying to help me when I wasn't ready to help myself. I didn't expect them to respond, but they did. Slowly, we started rebuilding our friendship, one honest conversation at a time. Recovery isn't a straight line. There were days when I felt like I was on top of the world, and there were days when I wanted to give up. The cravings didn't disappear overnight, and there were moments when the temptation to relapse was almost unbearable. But every time I felt myself slipping, I reminded myself why I had started this journey in the first place. One thing that helped me stay on track was finding a support group. Sitting in a circle with people who had been through similar struggles made me feel less alone. We shared our stories, our victories, and our setbacks. It was a reminder that recovery isn't something you do in isolation. It's something you do with the help of a community. Another key part of my recovery was mindfulness. I started meditating for just 5 minutes a day, focusing on my breath and letting go of the thoughts that tried to drag me down. It wasn't easy at first, but over time, it became a powerful tool for managing stress and staying grounded. As I continued to rebuild my life looking back, I can confidently say that one of the most valuable resources in my recovery journey was a book titled Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for Young Adults. This wasn't just any book. It was a guide filled with expert advice, actionable steps, and real-life stories that resonated deeply with me. The book helped me understand the science behind addiction and gave me practical tools to stay on track. It taught me how to rebuild my relationships, manage my cravings, and create a life filled with purpose and joy. What I loved most about it was that it wasn't just about quitting drugs, it was about transforming your entire life. If you're struggling with addiction or know someone who is, I can't recommend this book enough. It's not just a collection of tips and tricks. It's a roadmap to freedom, written with the kind of empathy and understanding that only comes from someone who truly gets it. You can get a digital copy of Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for young adults at libraryffy.com. The link is in the description. Trust me, this book changed my life in ways I never thought possible, and I know it can do the same for you. Take that first step today, you deserve it. I started rediscovering the things that made me happy before addiction took over. I picked up old hobbies like playing guitar and writing. I spent more time outdoors, hiking trails and soaking in the beauty of nature. And I started setting new goals for myself, like going back to school and volunteering in my community. I'll never forget the day I realized I had been sober for an entire year. It wasn't just a milestone. It was proof that I was capable of change. That I was stronger than the addiction that had tried to destroy me. The book that changed everything. Looking back, I can confidently say that one of the most valuable resources in my recovery journey was a book titled Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for Young Adults. This wasn't just any book. It was a guide filled with expert advice, actionable steps, and real-life stories that resonated deeply with me. The book helped me understand the science behind addiction and gave me practical tools to stay on track. It taught me how to rebuild my relationships, manage my cravings, and create a life filled with purpose and joy. What I loved most about it was that it wasn't just about quitting drugs, it was about transforming your entire life. If you're struggling with addiction or know someone who is, I can't recommend this book enough. It's not just a collection of tips and tricks. It's a roadmap to freedom, written with the kind of empathy and understanding that only comes from someone who truly gets it. You can get a digital copy of Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for young adults at libraryffy.com. The link is in the description. Trust me, this book changed my life in ways I never thought possible, and I know it can do the same for you. Take that first step today, you deserve it. After I finished reading Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for young adults and implementing the steps within its pages, something incredible began to happen. I started to rediscover who I truly was. For so long, I had allowed addiction to define me. It shaped my actions, controlled my thoughts, and dictated how I lived each day. But now, with the tools and knowledge I gained, I began building a life that wasn't about just surviving, it was about thriving. The book gave me a structure to follow, but it was up to me to apply it. One of the most important lessons I took from it was how to focus on self-compassion. In the past, I had been so consumed by guilt and shame that I couldn't see a way forward. But as I worked through the exercises in the book, I learned to forgive myself for my mistakes. Forgiveness wasn't about erasing the past. It was about choosing to move forward despite it. I started journaling as part of my recovery, something the book encouraged as a means of self-reflection. Every morning, I would write down 3 things I was grateful for. Some days, the list was simple: the sunlight streaming through my window, the smell of coffee, or the sound of birds outside. On harder days, I wrote about the strength it took to stay sober for another 24 hours. These small acts of gratitude helped me shift my perspective. I started seeing life not as a burden to endure but as a gift to cherish. The simple joys I had overlooked before, spending time with loved ones, feeling the breeze on my face, or laughing at a silly joke, became the cornerstones of my new life. One of the most difficult parts of recovery was learning to navigate triggers. Certain places, people, and even songs would remind me of my past and tempt me to fall back into old habits. The book prepared me for this, providing strategies to identify triggers and create a plan to handle them. For example, I learned the importance of creating safe spaces, both physically and mentally. I removed anything in my home that reminded me of my addiction, whether it was paraphernalia, photos, or even old playlists. I also set boundaries with people who were still using or who didn't support my recovery journey. There were moments when the cravings hit hard. On those days, I leaned on the coping techniques I had learned: breathing exercises, calling a trusted friend, or diving into a healthy distraction like painting or going for a walk became my lifelines. The book emphasized that relapse isn't a failure. It's a part of recovery. While I didn't relapse, understanding that it was okay to struggle made me feel less afraid of the journey ahead. Another area the book helped me with was rebuilding my self-confidence. Addiction had stripped me of my sense of worth, leaving me feeling like a shell of the person I once was. It's hard to imagine chasing your dreams when you don't even believe you deserve to have them. The book offered practical advice on how to regain that confidence. I started setting small, achievable goals for myself. Completing each one, no matter how minor, gave me a sense of accomplishment. At first, the goals were as simple as showing up to support group meetings or sticking to a weekly budget. Over time, they grew bigger, enrolling in an online course, applying for a job, and eventually volunteering at a local community center to help others struggling with addiction. Helping others became one of the most rewarding parts of my recovery. Every time I shared my story or offered a listening ear to someone in need, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. It reminded me of how far I had come and reinforced my commitment to staying on this path. Recovery isn't just about fixing yourself. It's about repairing the damage done to others. One of the biggest challenges I faced was rebuilding trust with my family and friends. The book guided me on how to approach this sensitive process with honesty and patience. I started by acknowledging the pain I had caused. This wasn't easy. Sitting down with my parents and admitting how deeply I had hurt them was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had, but it was also one of the most healing. They told me how scared they had been, how helpless they had felt watching me spiral out of control. Hearing their perspective gave me a deeper appreciation for the love and support they had always offered, even when I didn't deserve it. Rebuilding trust took time. It wasn't about grand gestures but consistent actions. Showing up when I said I would. Keeping my promises, being open and honest, even when it was uncomfortable. Slowly but surely, the walls began to come down, and our relationships grew stronger than ever before. As I grew more confident in my recovery, I started to think about the kind of life I wanted to build. The book encouraged me to reconnect with my passions and explore new interests. For me, that meant going back to school to study psychology. I wanted to understand more about addiction and mental health, so I could help others the way I had been helped. I also discovered a love for fitness during my recovery. Exercise became more than just a way to stay healthy. It became a way to challenge myself and build resilience. I started training for a local 5K, something I never thought I'd have the discipline to do. Crossing that finish line was one of the proudest moments of my life. But the most important lesson I learned was that recovery isn't a destination. It's a journey. There's no finish line, no point where you're done. It's a daily commitment to making choices that support your well-being and staying true to the person you want to be. If you're struggling with addiction, or if you know someone who is, I want you to know that recovery is possible. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And you don't have to do it alone. Breaking Free from Drug Addiction for Young Adults was the guide I didn't know I needed. It's not just another book filled with generic advice. It's a step-by-step roadmap written with compassion and expertise, designed specifically for young adults facing the unique challenges of addiction. This book gave me the tools to reclaim my life, repair my relationships, and rediscover my purpose. It helped me understand the science of addiction, develop healthier habits, and create a future I'm excited about. If you're ready to take that first step toward freedom, I can't recommend this book enough. You can grab a digital copy at libriffy.com by clicking the link in the description. Don't wait another day to start your journey toward healing. This book changed my life, and I know it can do the same for you. Take the leap, you're worth it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.